to the Sotto La Curva Serie A podcast.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Remo, and I will be your makeshift host for this week as Mike is still away in sunny Florida, lathering some olive oil in his chest. I'm joined by the only happy camper out of our trio this Tuesday evening, our resident Romanista, Joe. Last week,
Good
we
evening.
spoke about Como and how they could have had 0 points over the 3 games after losing to Fiorentina. But they surprised us all with a strong showing against Milan, a dominant performance against Juve. So let's start with that Milan game and the battle between Allegri and Fabregas. Joe, you were salivating at this battibecco between the two of them. What were your thoughts on the game and on everything that happened after?
The game was pretty much what we expected. I think both teams are in a spell of good form generally. They definitely didn't disappoint. The Allegri and Fabregas rivalry that's brewing in Serie A, and two very unlikely, I would say, like rivals. I wouldn't have had on my bingo card for 2026 that Cesc Fabregas would be beefing with Max Allegri in Serie A. But I stand with my Milanisti and Allegri. I don't know how. I don't understand how that's not a touchline ban for Fabregas. Like he puts hands on an opposing player. Like it's wild. What are we
While the
doing?
play is happening. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
like I was listening to another podcast and they were saying 5 games, or I don't know if 5 games, but something. You can't lay hands on another team's player. I don't know. I've never. I can't for the life of me understand how. In the moment, fine. I can see the ref not sending him off or booking him, or maybe didn't see what happened. Post match, I was expecting some kind of response from the Serie A, but yeah, it's shocking, surprising, really.
Well, I don't understand. I mean, I remember a couple seasons back, there was a coach, if I'm not mistaken, it was Pioli, who got suspended because he stepped onto the field. Now, we see coaches do it every game now, where they step onto
Yeah.
the field, they celebrate with players. But to hold the player back, like he clearly is trying to hold back Salamakers on the run.
If he was on the field and he held that jersey, it would have been a yellow as a player. I don't see how it's not as a
100%.
coach.
And the craziest thing is that this all happens. The ref is not far. The fourth official is not far. Allegri reacts. Allegri gets a red. Fabregas doesn't get anything on the field. Okay? It's clear. It's clear because Salamakers and Fabregas even hugged after that. Fabregas apologized. But then video review, all this should be a ban. 100% a ban.
Yeah. You can't you can't expect them to undo the red for Allegri. And there's an argument to be made that maybe shouldn't have responded in the way that he did.
The red, that's fine. Yeah.
But there should be at least an equivalent ban for Fabregas.
Should be something, at least something. A fine too. I would take a fine, but it's ridiculous.
This is like twice in a couple of games that Milan gets like suckered into. I remember in the Roma game as well, Robinho Vaz out of nowhere. 2 other guys I didn't have beefing on my bingo card. Vaz subs on 42 seconds into his Roma career, shoves Modric. Modric gets in his face and he gets the yellow, and Vaz gets away
without
with
even
it.
shoving him. He just got in his face and he got a yellow.
Yeah. And now this week, strangely enough, Fabregas.
It was
and I don't know.
It was an odd game. I mean, the Magnan giveaway was terrifyingly bad. But I mean, on the other hand, Paz gets a goal after a couple of weeks of not playing very well at all. But yeah, I mean, it was a 1-1. Very
uneventful
very
aside from
for a midweek game. Everyone's talking about the bust up between Fabregas and Allegri, and that's it, right?
Rightfully so, probably, when you look at the rest of the game.
But I mean, Como getting a point to the second place team, already a big point. Milan suffering a bit in the run towards Inter, or to keep up with Inter. But Como kept on rolling this weekend, playing Juventus, and what a game that was. I mean, Joe, What's going on with Spalletti?
You know what? I'm beginning to think that, and we were all pretty quick to heap praise on Spalletti when he got some good results. I'm starting to wonder if it wasn't just a new manager bump. Like you see it a lot of times in other sports. It doesn't make sense how. At first, it didn't make sense how the team looked in Spalletti's first games. How is this the same team as the last couple of games? Before Spalletti, and now you're looking at it and you're saying, well, how is this the same team as Spalletti's first couple of games? Like it doesn't make any sense. And I think we spoke about this. I believe, I don't know if it was on the podcast or off the podcast. I'm a big fan of Spalletti's in general. Being a Roma fan, there's a special connection there. I think something he was guilty of with the national team was hubris, a lack of modesty. He was stubborn. He was almost dogmatic with his tactics and with his the roles in his formation, and you could almost say he was sort of sniffing his own farts the whole time that he was Italy manager. And
100%.
I'm getting a feel of some of the same stuff at Juve now. David's doing well. Oh, wow, you think that's cool? Watch me restart Openda's career. Like,
My
just
God.
leave it. He's playing well. Why would you? Don't mess with it. Oh, you think I did
David
well with McKennie?
I thought David had a little issue going into the game. He didn't play in Galatasaray game.
So I don't see that anywhere, even on the actual thing.
It wasn't very clear, I don't think, but I know he wasn't. I don't even think he was called up to the Galatasaray game, was he? Did he come in?
So I think that was a Champions League thing. I don't think he was on the Champions League lineup. I'm looking here against. Yeah, you see, he doesn't show up on the injury report for the Como game.
Interesting. I was under the impression that he.
As a matter of fact, he subbed in. He subbed in at Como. So why, he's hot? Why all of a sudden are we going with Openda?
Especially Openda, who hasn't been good at all.
He's proven nothing, and then
at that point, play McKennie and as striker or Coat Miners.
Yeah, and it's almost as if so we're talking McKennie and Coot Miners. It's almost as if the change of role for McKennie, he's like, oh well, now I'm gonna double down and play Coot Miners Braccetto. But why? For what reason? It's just he's tinkering and tinkering and tinkering, and I feel like it's at a certain point you won't get away with that. I think you need to find something that works and ride it for a little bit. I think it's just more of the same Spalletti arrogance and tactical tinkering and dogmatism. And I'm starting to think that maybe this marriage doesn't go on into next season, right? He's got a very short deal, and I don't know who will reject who at this point. If Spalletti will say, well, you know what, maybe this team isn't to the standards that I need, and maybe Juve will say, well, listen, you're clearly not managing to the standards we need. I was so convinced that Spalletti would be Juventus' manager next year, and I'm not as sure anymore now.
I mean, across all competitions, they've had, I would say, especially counting that Lazio tie against a very subpar Lazio, they have 5 negative results. Atalanta in the Coppa Italia, 3-0. Lazio, 2-2. Inter, 3-2 loss. Galatasaray, 5-2 loss. Yeah. And then a 2-0 loss to Como. That's a lot of goals conceded for a team that is reliant on their defense. Historically, Juventus is built around defense. And they're even the games that they win, apart from, let's say, Napoli, Cremonese shouldn't count that much, but they concede against Parma. They've been conceding a lot, and we could say it's Di Gregorio. I was
Another
the first
howler
to say
this week.
against. Yes, I
Yeah.
was the first to defend him against Inter, but now it's becoming a bit much.
Ugh.
It's becoming a bit
Yeah.
much. It's a shame because he held promise, and now goalies once they get in their head, once they lose confidence, it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
tough. And I mean, yeah, like you said, even the results that they did get, I mean, Bologna, who's a mid-table team, a tight game against Roma, fair enough. And then, the teams that they've been beating were Pisa, like you said, Cremonese, Benfica, Parma. Um, yeah, maybe we were too quick to drink the Spalletti Kool-Aid, but yeah,
it
I don't
seems a
know.
lot like Spalletti's second stint at Roma, where he kind of just alienated Totti and alienated a lot of the
Yeah,
fan base, I would say,
yeah,
with that
it's
arrogance, that Spalletti-esque arrogance that he knows best. And
yeah,
I mean, we saw it even at Napoli, but at Napoli, I guess the results spoke for themselves. They counteracted that arrogance that he always has a chip on his shoulder, and it must
yeah,
be like a Tuscan coach thing because I mean, you look at Allegri, it's the same thing. Sari too, all these Tuscan coaches. But
yeah,
when the results don't come, like it was with it, like it happened with Italy, it happened with the national team, it happened in that second stint with Roma, and it's happening now with Juve. And if you're gonna be arrogant, man, you got to back it up with results, and he's just not doing that.
yeah. And you lose at a certain point. I think you risk losing the faith of the team, right? So, especially a manager like Spalletti with with the name value that he has. If you're a senator in the locker room at Juve and you hear that Spalletti's coming in, well, right off the bat, you're gonna allow him a certain amount of grace, right? The default setting is for you to buy in and do what this guy says because he's got a track record and he's a prestigious manager. When when the negative results start to pile up and you start to be wrong one, two, three, four times with your little tweaks, the worry is that the wheels fully come off and the players no longer buy in and are less willing to follow you blindly because, you know, uh, especially at a club like Juventus where there are important players, the respect of the team needs to be first earned and then maintained, right? You buy your players'
Mhm.
respect through results, and he's right now that's not a currency that he's heavy in.
It's going to be an interesting week for Juve too, with Galatasaray and Roma coming up, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah,
Uh, but we've spoken a lot about Juve in this game, but we could speak a little bit more about Como. I think we were discounting the fact that they got two huge results against two big teams, and they're right there. They're right on the cusp of challenging for a Champions League spot, and that's pretty big because they did this Juve game without Nico Paz, who was suspended. Now,
yeah,
is Como that serious? I said it. I think I said it last week where Nico Paz leaves next year for sure. They already have the replacement in house with Baturina. They're already set up. They look like a serious team, very balanced. Vojvoda. It's gonna be tricky now. They're easily hateable. We could all agree on that. Rich team, arrogant young coach who pulls players on the sidelines. And any enemy of Max Allegri is an enemy of mine. But I mean, it's still commendable how well they're built and how they're getting these results, not only against the smaller teams or against direct competitive teams like a Bologna or I would say Fiorentina. They lost Fiorentina, but they're doing well as a whole in that upper mid table. But to beat that mid table, those top four teams, this is it's going to propel their growth even further. I don't know what you think, Joe, about that, but I
yeah.
mean, props to Como.
I think they're definitely a team to look out for in the future. Um, Paz obviously is on his way out. Unfortunately, because of the buyback clause that Real Madrid has, they're not really going to be able to cash in on him. But like you said, his replacement is probably already in-house and was picked up on a cheap. I think, millionaire football players will always be happy to move in and around Lake Como, and so they can have that little retirement home thing going with signings like Morata and Sergio Roberto and so on. I'd be curious to see the first sort of changing of the guard. Fabregas, I think, is being made happy by ownership, and they're right to make him happy. He's come in with a clear vision and he's brought results. I don't think Fabregas is going to stay at Como past maybe next year, right? I think
He's a part owner. That's the tricky part.
sure, but I mean,
I know you could always work around it.
yeah, not to get into football, but Tom Brady is a part owner, and Messi, and this is something that we're seeing more and more is player owners and manager owners. I think the team probably didn't have the finances to give him the salary he wanted, so they gave him shares of the club. But I think at a certain point, a cycle will close with Como, and Fabregas will go. I'm very curious to see what happens then. For next year, I definitely think that as long as they keep the same sort of transfer strategy, hang on to Fabregas, maybe strengthen at a couple of positions. I think Morata has been a brutal signing.
Jeez,
Dubicas has
big
his
flop.
moments. Yeah, Dubicas has his moments, but they probably would need a punta. Figure you're going to lose some creativity from Paz. Baturina is not a poor player by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not Nico Paz. So you need to make up for that by making the positions around that trequartista a little bit stronger, right? Paz can drag Duvicas up. He can drag Baturina up. He can drag Diao up. With Paz gone, you need these guys to either elevate together or you need to, across the board, raise the level a little bit. So it's going to be a very interesting transfer window, and they're not afraid to go out and A, spend a lot of money, B, make a lot of moves, a high volume of moves. So it's going to be a busy summer for Como for sure.
Very good point. Speaking of that top four race, we'll skip that Lecce Inter game because there's not much to talk about, and Michael's not here, and
Inter should go
I
out and
mean,
win. Check, move
like
on.
Lecce did pretty well for a large portion of that game, but come on, not
Yeah.
much to do.
No.
We'll jump straight to that Atalanta Napoli game. Big win for Atalanta.
Huge.
I was proven wrong. To all our listeners, Michael agreed with the pick that I made for him last week in Calcioscomesse, and he won. And he
Yeah.
had the best odds out of all of us, so he's first technically right now. We'll get to Calcioscomesse a little later, but big
Yeah.
ups to Mike for a solid pick in Atalanta. I also won, by the way, because I picked an over 2.5.
Yeah.
But a big win for Atalanta. Napoli now, it's getting a little ugly and it's getting a little scary. Take it away, Joe. I mean, there's a lot that
I mean,
happened in this game.
I feel like Chicken Little today, like running around screaming that the sky is falling everywhere, but like, do Napoli miss Champions League? Maybe. Like, is that a thing that we're gonna see happen? I you know what? If I had to handicap the odds of Conte even finishing this season, I'm not sure I'd put it over 50-50.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
and the bookmakers are saying that this headbee's coming in next year for sure.
yeah. So that's I had foreseen probably Italiano going in next year, but with De Zerbi becoming available, yeah, I think that would be a great matchup. I think Napoli has the horses to play that style of play, and I think that De Zerbi is probably not as good a fit for Juventus as he would be for Napoli. But yeah, the writing is on the wall. Conte is almost definitely not back next year. If the results continue to slide and Champions League becomes a risk, you know what? I'm not sure. I'm saying this through and I'm walking through it now. I don't think you can let Conte leave. I don't think De Laurentiis would let Conte go and risk not qualifying for Champions League next year. Will Conte quit? Maybe, but I don't think De Laurentiis would be the one to lose patience. Yeah, you can't afford to not be in Champions League next year.
I mean, they started this game off pretty well. They took the lead, and
against the run of
that
play,
first
though.
half,
Like,
yeah, but I mean, they looked relatively solid in that first half, even defensively.
yeah,
I mean, Hoyland, it seemed like Yen had his hands full. It seemed like he got away with a bit of luck.
having his hands full. Yeah,
Yeah, pretty much. We could talk about those calls a bit because one, the ref probably got right. The other one, I would disagree with. Um, it's VAR is not has this weekend. VAR had another great weekend,
it's true. Yeah,
but I mean, the question of Conte, I think he has to finish the season now. Do they make Champions League? We just spoke about another team that just keeps struggling. So it's who's going to struggle more, Napoli or Juve? And who takes that fourth spot after? Is it going to because now I think that fourth spot is up for grabs between Napoli and Juve, and you have Como coming up. You have Atalanta. This is a big. It's a big win for Atalanta. They're putting themselves in that conversation now too, because if they
also you
continue
gotta,
on this run of form,
yeah, and you gotta keep in mind that Roma's technically third, but they're on 50 as well. So I mean,
mhm,
separated by 5 points from 7th to 3rd. We're separated by 5 points only, and it's just a murderer's row of Atalanta, Como, Juve, Napoli, Roma, all within 5 points for that last Champions League spot and the 70 to 100 million euros it's worth for these clubs. I mean, I know Serie A is not the Premier League, but this is a really exciting race for that. Those 2 last Champions League spots. It's huge for a club to make Champions League. Like I, I'm looking at it from Roma's perspective. The Mercato we would be able to give Gasperini with the Champions League is very different to the one we can give him without Champions League, especially considering we just spent 50 mil in January, right?
100%.
So a lot is riding on those Champions League spots for a lot of teams. That might have a big effect on who can Napoli bring in as a coach, right? Is De
Mm.
Zerbi going to want to come to a Napoli that's not in Champions League? Is Italiano going to want to come to a Napoli that's not in Champions League? Does Spalletti bounce if
I feel like
Juve's not in Champions League?
I feel like Italiano is an easier get than De Zerbi.
Definitely, but maybe Juve wants to start a project with Italiano and they're in Champions League and,
True.
and Napoli's not. A lot is going to come down to who gets these 2 last Champions League spots.
Serie A is usually like that, right? If the Scudetto race is done by February, that means Champions League and relegation battles are insane, and this season's no different.
Yeah, at least
But
it's giving us
going
something to watch.
going back to this game between Atalanta and Napoli, for me, the foul again on Hoyland, okay, I agree, not a foul. You could
Yeah,
let that slide. But the foul that they called on Hoyland on Yen, I feel like
very much so a foul.
weak.
Yeah, yeah,
No, I feel like that's a weak sauce. You know what I mean? Like that's the goal that they called back.
yeah.
I feel like it's weak. They're both grabbing each other, and Hoyland, okay, he pulls his arm a little, but he's pulling his arm because Yen has his hands all over his shirt. For me, it's just let the play run, man. It's 2 guys, 2 big boys fighting. You know what I mean? 2 men slapping man meat.
Oh man, we're gonna have to learn how to clip audio.
Yeah, it's a wrestling thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but I'm gonna have to tune in, I guess, or not. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I feel like it's so tone deaf, and this is where again, Chicken Little. I'm gonna get on my horse and I'm gonna go after Rocky. Read the room, buddy. Like VAR is in the news. Referees in Italy are under scrutiny. Let them play. Don't make calls that are borderline. Let it go. Like, stop putting yourself in a position to get things wrong. Because then you go to VAR and you get it wrong. Don't go. Like, it's just.
And
I
they
don't
go to
know.
VAR over every little thing. We could use this as a segue to talk about that Milan game. But listen, about this Milan game. I'm gonna rant a little
Go.
because in no way does Milan deserve to win that game. Will Milan win that game playing the way they did? That's not even a question. That's not the argument. The argument here is that the goal that Parma scored should not have counted. Now, does that mean the game would have ended 0-0? Probably. Does that mean Parma wouldn't have scored on a next corner? You know what? We don't know. But that's not the point. People are saying, yeah, but he did. Even if the goal didn't count, Milan didn't play well. It doesn't matter. That's not the argument here. The argument here is that the ref called something that he saw with his own two eyes. And the thing he saw happened. Now, watching it the first time, I think I'm in the Milan group, the Milan fan club of Montreal. And I wrote in their group chat, I said, not a foul. Because I thought they were calling the jump. Troilo on Bartesaghi, where Bartesaghi doesn't jump, he bends over, and Troilo jumps up. First, he jumps up with no hands, and then he puts his hands to not fall because Bartesaghi bent over. To me, that's not a foul. To me, that's the defender making a mistake, not jumping, because the hands only go up later. But you look at it from another perspective, and there's a foul on the goalie. Magnan is being blocked. I forget who it is. I don't know if it's Del Prato but Magnan is being blocked, and the refs saw that at first, but then the VAR is not showing him those images. They're calling him to go look at the screen when he shouldn't. It's not a clear and obvious foul. It's not a clear and obvious error. That's the first thing. Then, I don't know what they're communicating between each other, but if the ref calls a foul on the goalie and you're showing him a zoomed in clip of the header being won in the air, there's something not connecting there. Then it's up to the ref too to say, hey, no, this is not what I called. I called the foul on the goalie. Can you show me more images of the goalie while it's going on? It's extremely frustrating because between that Allegri red card in midweek, between the Rabiot red card, which the ref cam came out and it didn't seem like there was much to it, between this foul here that they call and then they take away. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. I'm not going to be one of those fans to say, Serie A, they're out to get Milan. I'm not saying that. But if week in and week out, your referees keep making these mistakes and the VAR keeps meddling when it shouldn't. I'm a big lover of VAR. I've said it in the past. I've said it on this podcast. I've said it to people that I know. I love VAR. I love the offside rule. I'm a fan of black and white calls. But the VAR has to know its place. It has to be consistent. And let's keep in mind the clear and obvious foul aspect. Now, going back to my team, because they played like trash, because the game was completely misread by management, taking out Pulisic and keeping Leao on. Okay, Leao hit the post. He could have scored, but apart from that, And you know what is frustrating is that the first half was probably some of the best football I saw Milan play all year.
It was all Milan. That first half, I think, had
They played very well, but then for some reason they can't finish. And they played well in that first half. Leao was hustling, but then the second half he disappears. And instead of taking him out because you see that he's dwindling towards the end of the game because he clearly doesn't have the legs to go 90 minutes, you take out Pulisic, who was playing between the lines, coming at the ball, carrying the ball. Take him off for Fulkrug, who plays as a firm punta. Didn't do much. Leao got even less balls to him because there's no one playing between the lines. It's an issue with this Milan, and I don't know what's going on and why they're so insistent to play Leao 90 minutes when he clearly doesn't have the legs for it. And if you see him struggling, why do you take out a player who's probably your best player on the field at the moment?
Your most dynamic one, anyways. Yeah.
Your most dynamic, yeah. You're most dangerous too, and he has a good connection with Fulkrug because Pulisic is the type of player that runs around And if you have a firm striker, as we've seen in the past couple games that they played together, where Pulisic missed a couple sitters, Fulkrug holds up the ball, gives it to an incoming Pulisic. It's a great tactic. It works. Leao doesn't do that with him. Leao likes to hide on the wing. He likes to get the ball to his feet and hold on to it a bit too long.
Cut
And
inside,
yeah,
missed the net.
yeah, he hit he hit that post, and if that goal goes in, we might be having a different conversation.
Yeah.
Although I will always say that one goal doesn't negate a game where you don't play that well.
I think it's fair of you to feel, because the thing is, he's so blatantly just blocking Maignan. It's one thing to say, like, and you'll notice that Inter are, I think, the most prolific team from corners in all of Europe this year, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
notice that they put Peter, Paul, John, Tom, everybody's in the box. It's a disaster, and rocambolesco, and then someone heads it in, or it bounces out to Di Marco, and he hits a screamer. So they're capitalizing on creating chaos in and around the 6-yard box. That's one thing. This is the guy, literally, you see him like look over his shoulder at Maignan and like turn around a little bit and like try it. It's so clear what he's doing. And the fact that, again, and I said it, I like VAR. I think we're going in the right place. I like that they have the ref cam and they release the ref cam. I like that the ref explains it. But what are we doing? If we're going to VAR and we're still getting it wrong, what the F are we doing? How can it be? The whole point of VAR is to not get things wrong. Us, we're stopping the game for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes at a time. These guys are talking about I don't know what, because he's calling blocking the goalie, and apparently then they're showing him something else. What are we doing? Like, it's incredible.
We're turning the right calls into the wrong calls with VAR.
Yeah, I said it a couple of episodes ago, and I'll say it again. C'est de l'enculage de mouche. It's like we're so in the weeds about the microscopic, but then the big important things, we just run right past them and get them wrong. The guy, he could have the dead skin of his elbow offside, he's offside. But then the other guy, he stands in front of the goal, he like a pecker. It's okay. But what are we doing? Anyways, I could go on VAR for a long time, and I'm not against VAR. The only person who complains about security cameras are crooks, right? So I'm not against VAR. I want the calls to be made right, but I'm against the way it's being used, or not used, or overused, maybe. Anyways,
I feel like this
welcome
year
to VARcast.
it's been a bit overused this year, and
Every week.
it wasn't a great weekend for me, but Joe, I think it was a great weekend for you. You called before this game that it would have been the perfect game for Roma to botch,
Yeah, I said it in the
to
group. As soon as I
crumble
saw,
under the pressure.
yeah, as soon as I saw Milan drop points, Napoli drop points, Juve drop points. But that's it, guys. We're throwing our hats in the ring. Guaranteed, we're dropping
Against
points too.
Cremonese out of all
Yeah,
teams.
of course. Yeah, of course. The old Roma would have, and I listen. I don't know if this is still maybe the old Roma. Maybe it's the new Roma. Maybe it's a different Roma. I don't know. But they came out, and that Cremonese wall held for a good little while. But Roma has some difference makers at attack. You see a guy like Milan, who, even though he didn't score, he was everywhere. He was a constant thorn in everyone's side. He played a fantastic game. LA now we coming in the second half, and props to Gasperini, who looked at the game and said, "Listen, there's no need for 3 center backs because these guys aren't even trying to play soccer with us." Takes off a defender, throws in an attacking midfielder, doubles down when he throws in Venturino, who looks fantastic. I don't know where they went to find this kid,
He's good.
but he looks great. And Roma's able to tilt the odds in their favor. Evan Ndika with his first goal ever for the club, and Cristante just
Surprising.
popping up out of nowhere. Pizzilli, it's just a comprehensive result. Went out, got the job done. I can't be pickier than that. 23 shots, 3 big chances created, 3 goals scored, just comprehensive victory. I put it in the show doc here. I think Davide Nicola, the magic pixie dust is wearing off. I don't see them surviving. Look, I'd like to think that Roma is as good as they looked in that game, but a portion of it was definitely just that Cremonese is a bad football club. Like I don't know what they were doing, but they weren't playing soccer. Thorsby is the only guy who probably saved himself. Even Luperto, uncharacteristically poor game. It just looks like they're safe right now, but I think they're on the worst form in the league at the moment.
I mean, they have a very favorable matchup next week against Milan, who they might make a double over this season. But just to go back to your point on Vetturino, I think I said it a couple weeks ago. I don't know if I said it on this podcast or I may have said it in a conversation. But when they signed him, I thought it was such a good bit of business because he's what Baldanzi should have been. They signed Baldanzi a bit too late, I think, in Baldanzi's career, and for me, Baldanzi this weekend, he showed that on a mid-table team, he
beautiful
fits
run,
in perfectly. Yeah, beautiful run, set up the goal, looks great, even if he doesn't have 90 minutes under his legs. But he's a very talented player. He needs to play, and I don't think he would find that space in Roma at the point in his career that he's in right now. Venturino, on the other hand, is young and probably has a much higher ceiling. That I still remember that 2 seasons ago when he had debuted in Serie A with Genoa. I think his first game started, he ended up scoring a double towards the end of the season. It was like a meaningless game in the bigger picture, but this kid came in and he looked good. And so I think it was last season actually. And so when Roma signed him this year, I thought, great bit of business. This is a guy who you could throw in a couple minutes at the end of the game. He could play some Coppa Italia games. He could play some smaller teams, and he'll look good. He'll develop slower. He's at an age, he's still relatively young. I think he's like 19, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check.
He might just be, And
he's 19. He's 19.
Yeah. So, and him and Pizzilli, I think, they're like two zanzare out there. They're like two mosquitoes, man. They're always moving. They're always running. They're always snipping at defenders' heels. They're always pressing. They're always getting forward.
And Pizzilli too, for me. I mean, he wasn't playing much of the beginning of the season with Gasperini, but I think if Gasperini is able to mold him into that complete midfielder that Gasperini is known for creating, he has all the tools at his disposal, Pizzilli. And all this to say, there was a quote that I saw this week from Christian Brocchi, a Milan legend, Christian Brocchi. I think he was on the Zone in Italy or something, and it was about this Roma game. And he said, don't say that there's no talented young Italian players. He said, you look at someone like Pizzilli, and he pointed out Pizzilli in particular, but I think he was also referring to Ghilardi and to Venturino.
Roma's got a few of them. Pizzilli, Venturino, Ghilardi, Arena.
And I commend a coach like Gasperini because he didn't throw them in at the beginning of the season. Ghilardi didn't play for 13 games straight, and then once he came in, it seemed as though he was ready. He was a completely different player. He understood his assignment, he understood his task, he understood the tactics, and he understood what his coach wanted from him. And the same thing with Pizzilli. And Venturino, maybe because he has a bit more raw talent, Gasperini didn't need that time to mold him, and it's a forward position, so he kind of throws him out there. But those two players in particular, Pizzilli and Ghilardi, is what the nation needs, and they should be an example. And Gasperini should lead this example of how to manage these young players because the talent's there. And it's a big argument in Italy. It's a big argument with all Italians that watch football is that where's our youth players? And they're there. They need to play. They need coaches to guide them. They need coaches to mold them. And Roma's doing a great job at that.
Yeah, I agree.
So you're very happy about that game. We'll
Very
talk
much.
about the Monday games, because it's two teams that we could argue needed a win, and they both got 1-0 win. Fiorentina and Bologna winning their games. Fiorentina against Pisa, a little Tuscan derby. Big win for the relegation battle. Joe, you have Keane in Fantacalcio. I'm sure you're smiling because he's hot right now.
Yeah, I tried to move him all of December.
He's
I
at
think I
8
offered him
goals,
to
I think,
you
now.
Yeah, I think I offered him to you a few times. I offered him to Mike a few times. Yeah, he's heating up, and Fiorentina are going to need him if they're going to claw themselves out of this pit in the relegation. Right now they're tied with Lecce on 24 points, so they're out of the relegation zone on I believe it's goal difference, or is it head-to-heads? I'm
I
never
think it's
sure.
head-to-head first. After the
Yeah,
two games, it's head-to-head, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. So they're out of the relegation zone on head-to-head, and that Fiorentina win almost, that sort of drew Cremonese, and it looks like it's drawing Torino into the relegation battle, um, because these
We
teams
haven't really
are
spoken about Torino, but they're struggling big time. And they just changed their coach, I think yesterday or the day before. They may have announced it.
yeah,
That
Baroni's out.
Yeah, and they brought in my least favorite coach. My God, this guy's he is the epitome of a terrible Italian coach. It's D'Aversa, no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This guy,
Well,
he took a young team like Empoli, and I'm just gonna go on a little tangent here. A young team like Empoli with players like Sebastiano Esposito, Lorenzo Colombo, Jacopo Fazzini, and he made them look so bad. And it's not to say that they were world beaters, but when you have a team like that and you play this horrible type of football, they did the same thing on Monza, whose team wasn't bad enough to get relegated, and he just made them look so bad. This coach, I'm calling it now. I think Torino is in for a very bad second end of the season, because this is throwing in the towel and saying, "Hey, our team's struggling. Let's just rebuild in a couple of years
I
after
don't
making this
see.
extra mistake."
Yeah, I don't see Roberto D'Aversa coming in and having a huge impact on Torino going forward. I mean, I know Baroni wasn't getting the job done, and I think the real horror show with Torino this year is defensively. Um, 47 goals conceded is most in the league.
I see.
And Torino was a team who under Juric was a
Balling.
powerhouse defensively. Yeah, back with Milinkovic Savic, and Schurz looked very good there. Singo, Vojvoda, who scored this week. Torino has always had a very strong defensive core, and now I don't know if it's Cairo, if it's Baroni. I don't know at whose feet the blame lies, but Torino being the leakiest defense in Serie A is just surprising. Such a
Seems
solid
like
team.
they're sliding down the standings very quickly, while teams like Genoa and Cagliari are maybe not
Slowly,
as consistent as they should be, but they're slowly trending in the right direction.
yeah.
And Fiorentina is trending a lot quicker in the right direction. It seems like Torino is going to join those bottom four, so the Cremonese, Lecce, Pisa, and Hellas, who I would say is
No, Hellas cooked.
they're
This is your dream come true,
yeah.
Rev.
Oh my God, I can't wait. I'm going to celebrate.
They're cooked. They don't look good. They don't. They're toast. These guys, dead man walking.
Yeah,
I
for me
watched that
the
Sassuolo game,
biggest
and no, they're not
it
there.
was I know.
To get
And they're easy 3 points for
manhandled by
anyone.
Sassuolo, yeah. Hey, to get manhandled out by Sassuolo, who look, they're a mid-table team. It's fine, but I mean, Verona
For
didn't.
Pinamonti to score, you're bad.
Ah,
But the only team I think in that bottom four that maybe is hard done by a bit, I find Pisa is slightly hard done by. They came into the league, they played well. Them two, they had a coaching change, but I don't think Giardino. I think he suffered a bit by the results, but the way they played wasn't as bad as the results made it seem. It's a bit of a shame. We'll see if they can make a run now. They made some good signings. Like I called them out for making good signings. We'll see.
yeah, I don't think
But
they've
if I have to
so
choose
far.
between
It hasn't.
if I have to choose between Pisa and Cremonese, I'm going Davide Nicola all the way. So hopefully they're saved.
I don't know. And Pisa's another team who, on paper, that team looks good, and you wouldn't expect them to be so comfortably in the relegation zone. But again, you look at goals for, goals against. It's a very simple formula. They have 20 goals for. That's the
Yeah,
third least, right? So they're
yeah,
not
they're
scoring.
struggling to score.
Uh,
They also
you
signed
know,
a very good striker, and they're not playing him. So
yeah, that's a tough signing
it's
to
a bit
pull
of a
off in
shame too.
January,
Yeah,
though. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a tough signing to make work in January, unfortunately. Um,
We could we'll move on. We'll talk quickly about Bologna because I think this game was a game where maybe VAR showed its value. No one really
yeah,
expected that to be called a penalty, and VAR came in and said, "Hey, no, the foul actually happened in the
yeah,
box, or I think on the line of the box, which counts as in the
right
box."
there. Yeah,
Yeah, so this is a game where VAR was successful. Bernardeschi scoring on the penalty spot, even though Castro was lingering, hoping to take it. Uh,
yeah.
but Joe,
I
you
don't.
pointed out a very interesting fact about Bologna.
Yeah, I mean, credit goes to someone on Instagram. I wish I can source them, but if I find it, I'll maybe we can use that Sotto La Curva Instagram and repost it. But Vincenzo Italiano is in this was his 90th match with Bologna, and it's the 90th consecutive game where he does not start the same lineup as the previous game. And this is something that drives me bananas. We spoke about Spalletti sniffing his own farts, and Italiano. I don't know. They're Bologna is just like a very boring team this year. I find they don't have very many ambitions. They're not at any risk of going down. Um, they're just white toast milk. Um, I was hoping Italiano would have this team looking a little bit more offensive, would have them doing slightly more creative things, but so much chopping and changing. Another manager who we think is probably on the way out at the end of this year. But yeah, that was a stat that really just blew my mind. Um, 90 straight matches without the same lineup is like at this point he's got to be doing it for the meme. Like even by mistake, you might have put the same team out twice in a row. Like
It's crazy. I think Jean Mario is the odd man out this game, the new face. But
yeah,
it's insane. And you see them struggle a bit this season, and you have to wonder. I mean, is it because there's no consistency? There's no gelling. There's no. It's a strange tactic. I would, if you want to call it that. I don't know if he does it on purpose, like you said. If he's doing it for the memes, if he's doing it for fun, if he really just likes to tinker that much. But I don't know. It's very weird.
some managers. Gasperini was very much the same at Atalanta, especially with his forwards. So he was much more solid with the D's. But I remember at Atalanta when it was Ilicic, Pasalic, Muriel, and Zapata for two spots every day, every week. It was in and out. There was no guaranteed starter. There was no guaranteed subs. It was just mixing and matching nonstop. For the forward positions specifically, I think you rely so much on patterns of play to unlock opponents and on triangles and on um, like an understanding between forwards. Like we've seen partnerships over the years of forwards and midfielders who you were mentioning, Pulisic and Fulkrug, who play off each other well. This thing of changing every week, I don't think you're doing anybody any favors. And now I'm sitting here in an office in Montreal, and he's sitting in an office in Bologna as a manager. Far from me to judge anybody, but I can't see how it's possible to to not set the same. And if you go back to Fiorentina, it was pretty much the same thing. I think he was there for like 200 games, and I think 180 consecutive games of different lineups.
Yeah, it's
Like,
it's his calling card.
yeah. Anyways, just a funny result. Udinese continues their Jekyll and Hyde year. Sometimes they look great, other times less so. They lost Soler early this week. He went out after only 10 minutes. This guy's like the Babe Ruth of Serie A. He's excellent defender.
Always out.
He's hot as a goal scorer. Yeah, so hopefully he had missed the last game. He was coming back into the lineup. He only made it 10 minutes and came out. So hopefully he didn't re-aggravate anything. Udinese is another team who's having injury issues this year with Davis and Zaniolo in and out, and now Solet, and Atta, I think, was hurt for a while early on.
Yeah.
So they're having a hard time. You see, teams they're back up against the wall to start different lineups every week due to injuries, and they complain. Conte wishes he could start the same lineup 2 games in a row, and this guy is just doing it for
He's doing it for
the
shits and
vibes.
giggles.
Yeah, shits and giggles.
We'll look forward to next week. There's a couple of very interesting games. Well, one in particular, Roma Juve. But before we get to that match clue, as he tends to call it, we have Verona Napoli. Now, is this just what the doctor ordered, or? I mean, we've seen Napoli struggle a lot whenever they head to Verona, especially Conte's Napoli. I think it was his first loss was at the Bentegodi when he joined Napoli last season. Yeah, so I mean, it could be a trap game, especially considering they're still struggling with injuries. The team's not looking like it's gelling that well, or like we might think, it could be what the doctor ordered. It could be a Højlund goal finally.
Højlund brace and shut up shop.
He has 8 goals in 5 games. He needs to be a bit more consistent as well, especially Lukaku breathing down his neck. But what do you think about that, Joe? What's your prognostic?
I honestly think that, I caught the Verona game because it was one of those games out there on an island on Friday afternoon, and so I sat down and watched it all. And even with injuries, this Verona team just doesn't look like a professional soccer team. I mean,
not Serie A quality.
No, not in the slightest. Sassuolo is not the strongest defense in Serie A. They're a mid-table team, but they've shipped 35 goals, which is comfortably on the higher end of average, and Hellas just created nada, like under 1 xG, no big chances created, 12 shots, very few on target. I wonder if they're not gonna bite themselves for selling on Orban in January.
Holding on to him a bit too long.
Well, I mean, they should have held on to him a little bit longer. Bowie doesn't look like he's...
But Orban's back this week, so I mean, Napoli might be surprised. He's a handful whenever he plays.
Yeah, well, Orban's at Napoli. Orban's in Napoli. Didn't they sell him?
No, you're talking about Giovane.
Oh, Jovan, that's it. Sorry. Correct. Orban, Jovan, Sar.
The 2 revelations of their season, and literally the only light.
Yeah, and so I feel like Jovan was kind of the creator there, and it looks like they're missing that spark.
Yeah, I think Orban is left alone up front right now, and he wasn't there this past weekend, and they looked very bad.
Yeah, very much.
Inter playing a very hot Genoa. Genoa looked incredible versus, I mean, it was against that Torino team, but they looked very good. but they've been a bit inconsistent. But either way, this Genoa team is not a team to be taken lightly. Inter, we saw them today. We'll save the Champions League talk for when Mike is back because
Yeah. There's
I'm
no
sure
way he's
he
getting
has a
away with
lot to
it.
say.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has a lot to say about that second loss to Bodo Glimt at home. Oof. But they're playing Genoa. It's a tricky game, I think. I think that Inter will probably come out guns blazing. But I wouldn't count Genoa out.
No, I wouldn't either. I think it's always tough because the first question I ask myself when I wonder if a team is going to be able to give Inter a hard time is, are Genoa able to go out and pip a goal? Right? If they can go out and get one, maybe they steal a point. But look, De Rossi's got them playing well, but I think Inter just come out and after being bullied home and away by some Norwegian salmon fishers, I think they come out and take out their frustrations on Genoa. Unfortunately for Genoa, who's a team I have a bit of a soft spot for, always have, even before De Rossi made his way there. Yeah, I think it should be a pretty comfortable Inter win.
And the next game on the docket that we're definitely gonna be watching, I alluded to it before. Cremonese with a chance to do a double over Milan this season. Is this the game that Cremonese bounces back from, or is this Milan getting back in the win column after a bad loss to Parma? Both teams are struggling, but I mean, I wouldn't count out Cremonese against a Milan team that clearly struggles versus small teams.
Yeah, this is that 6:30 a.m. special over here, so it's like a nice
Mm.
lunchtime game in Italy. It's Milan is away from home. I still think, I mean, you
Cremona
can't,
is not too far.
like, you can't really expect Cremonese to go out and get a point. Can they shock Milan? Sure, but even though Parma is a surprising result, Cremonese is still a very far cry from even Parma's level, right? So again, I think this should be um, an easy win for Milan. I feel like you're trying to hedge. You're trying to like, oh, I told you they were tricky. You're
I
like,
mean, just looking at Milan's record against some lower teams this season, and it doesn't look good. And I mean, I think they dropped points to Parma on the away leg, on the andata, and now they lost on the ritorno. They lost to Cremonese on the andata. I think it was the first game of the season, and it kind of kickstarted Cremonese's little run at the beginning of the season. I find looking at this Milan team, watching them week in, week out, they struggle bad to break down teams that put, say, 10 guys behind the ball and say, hey, play. Milan struggles with that because they're that type of team right now with Allegri. So when they're forced to hold the ball and find openings, it's a little tricky. I'm hoping it's a win. I'm hoping it's a sfogo. Like they score 4 goals and they put it to bed and
get out of the
they turned it
system.
around. Yeah, but I don't know. I have no little faith right now.
There might be something to what you're saying. I mean, we saw them hold fast against Roma for 45 minutes, right? And I would say, despite Milan maybe being the better team all around, I would probably lean towards Roma, offensively speaking. At least, even not player by player, just as a team, because of Gasperini there and the more attacking mindset. I would say that Roma's probably a better attacking team than Milan, although Milan might be the better team. And Roma had a hard time getting through. So maybe, maybe there's something there, but we'll see. And then Roma Juve is the game for all the marbles, I think, this weekend. Um, Spalletti against Roma again. Huge Champions League implications. I'm never comfortable going into these games because Roma doesn't have a good track record of winning important games. The scontri diretti is not usually where Roma does well. We lost the first fixture, which was one of Spalletti's early games, 2-1. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar result. Juve taking it 2-1, just to complicate things a little more. I think it would just be too easy for Roma. If they were to win this game, be able to put their mind towards the Europa League a little bit, sort of not have Champions League in the bank, but I think that if Roma don't pick up 3 points against Juve this weekend, I will be calling for them to sacrifice the Europa League into the volcano and focus on qualifying for Champions League. If they get the 3 points, then maybe we can try and go another round in the Europa League. We'll have opened up, depending how other results go, at least on Juve, we'll have opened up, the gap right now is 4 points. We'll have opened up a 7-point lead on Juve. Napoli's playing Verona. I don't think they lose that, but if we can get a win here. If not, it's just it's gonna make it super messy. Super messy.
I see this as a tricky game. Juve's gonna have the Champions League game this midweek that they're gonna have to bounce back from and put a lot of effort into if they want any chance to go to the next round. Even if they might not consider it a priority, I still think the pride and just the overall, sportsmanship, they will tire themselves out a bit in that Champions League game.
Yeah, even just to get a win, because this is now at home, right? So even just to
exactly
get the sour taste out of the fans' mouths, just go out and put on a good performance, try and win 1-0, 2-1, just have a close game, and if you're going to exit the Champions League, at least exit it with your head held reasonably high, or higher than it was. Yeah.
But I see this as a very entertaining game between Roma and Juve, and I think I think Roma might surprise us. I think it might be the big game where they might show that they have what it takes to be among the big boys. Gasperini is really getting into a flow with the team, and the team is responding very well despite some injuries. We'll see. It's always interesting, Roma Juve at the Olimpico. That was the first Serie A game I went to, and
nice.
It's always a beautiful atmosphere.
Yeah.
We won't talk about the Champions League because I would love to have Mike here for that, and we'll wait to see all the results and and what happens there.
Fair.
I think we're both feeling conflicted on that game today between Inter and Bodo Glimt, and we'll bring it back next week. Conflicted in the sense that we want Italian teams to do well, but also godo.
Godo Glimt.
Come mai la Champions League tu non la vinci mai.
Dopo una riunione di circa 10 ore conclusasi questa mattina alle 5, la commissione disciplinare della Lega Calcio ha emesso la sentenza relativa al processo sulle scommesse.
So we'll head to Calcioscomesse. Now, Mike didn't send in his pick, so I will once again pick for him. We had pretty successful week last week. Joe,
I just want to throw it out there. We all three hit. If you would have put a crisp $20 bill on a 3-leg parlay of my pick, Remo's pick, and Mike's pick, you'd have cashed $158. A cool $158 of walking around money. So fade us at your own risk.
Okay, so I'll start with my pick. My pick, I brought it up before. Cremonese Milan, I would take the over 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might think that's not risky, but Milan doesn't score much, and Cremonese is a bottom feeder team, so we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I'm hoping it's a solid 4-0 win.
Over 2.5. Well, I mean, yeah. On the main app here in Montreal that people use, that's paying 190, so that's not horrible.
Not terrible. Not terrible.
You're actually, so the way this works, in case you guys are wondering, and you'll see, we'll post the current standings. It's considered a $1 bet. So the riskier pick you make, the more points you stand to gain. So everything is considered as a $1 bet. So as of last week, and we'll post this, but as of last week, we have all three of us have hit. I'm trying to pull this up here to tell you guys what the standings are. As of last week, we're looking at, I'm on 1.57, Remo 2.1, and Mike, who was bullied into his pick in the league at 2.37. So Rem now going for a 1.9. No need for a big risk, seeing as you're sort of in the middle of the pack, and the game here is just to not be the lower one, not be the lowest pick. So that strategy makes sense there, Rem. A little 1.9, nothing too crazy. Good call. What are we putting Mike on?
I'm gonna, since he's in the lead, I'll give him something simple. He was on his flight today, so he didn't get a chance to send in his Calcioscomesse. But I'll give him what's Napoli win money line paying?
153.
Okay, I'll give him that. I think he'd still be in the lead if he hits and I hit. So a nice safe bet for him. That has a decent odd.
I'm in last. I've got to risk it. I think I'm calling my shot here, and I'm going with Moise Kean, anytime goal scorer.
Oh.
I say he stays hot, pays a nice little 262. So we're going to go for Moise Kean, anytime goal scorer. Now, for those of you following along, a $20 wager on our parlay, which is now Moise Kean, anytime goal scorer, Napoli money line, and Cremonese Milan over 2.5 for the entry fee of $20. You're looking at a payout of 152. So if you want to play along with us, that's seems like a pretty reasonable parlay. Keane's hot, so we're banking on him keeping it up. Let's see how it goes.
All right, everyone, and we'll make a post on that on social media, so look out for that.
We're still waiting we're still waiting for what the challenge, what the punishment is supposed to be. Right now, it would be me or only one game in, so that's not too fair. But reach out, guys. Let us know what it is. Otherwise, it'll be something boring like putting me in a Lazio jersey or putting Rem in an Inter jacket or something of the sort.
Please don't. That would be held over my head for a very long time. That's it for this week. It was a tight episode. Me and Joe love to go on tangents and talk VAR and smaller teams and the relegation battle. We're looking forward to Mike getting back. He'll be nice and bronzed from all the olive oil, and and we'll talk Champions League next week. We'll talk the big match clue. A lot to talk about. So thanks everyone. Match clue. Thank you everyone. See you next week.
Have a great weekend, guys.